The Barrett M82 kicked hard against Kira Brennan's shoulder. Through the scope, 900 yards away, another hostile dropped. 36 rounds left. 40 targets still moving. She was going to run out of bullets before she ran out of enemies. "Phantom, this is actual." The radio crackled in her ear, cutting through the chaos of gunfire echoing across the Afghan valley. "Extraction inbound. ETA 8 minutes. Can you hold?" Kira's finger found the trigger again. Squeezed. Another target eliminated at 850 yards. The man had been running toward the building where her wounded teammates were pinned down, bleeding, dying. 35 rounds. "Phantom, confirm. Can you hold for 8 minutes?" She could see them all through her thermal scope. 43 heat signatures converging on her position from 3 directions. Taliban militants, paid well to be here tonight, paid to kill American SEALs, paid to make sure none of them made it home. 8 minutes might as well be 8 hours. But Master Chief Colton Rutherford was down there in that building. So was Doc Murphy. So was Lieutenant Holbrook. 3 good men who'd followed her into this hell because they trusted her judgment, trusted her skills, trusted that the intelligence was solid. The intelligence had been wrong, or worse, it had been a lie. Kira chambered another round. The bolt action was smooth, mechanical, reliable, like everything else in her life that actually mattered. Rifles didn't lie. Bullets didn't betray. Physics was honest. People, though. People lied all the time. "Phantom, I need confirmation. 8 minutes. She thought about Mac down there, thought about the way he'd looked at her during the briefing 3 days ago. His weathered face serious, eyes holding that quiet confidence he always had. The same look her grandfather must have worn in Desert Storm when he made 12 impossible shots in a single day and saved an entire platoon. Mac had told her once, 10% is the shot, Phantom. 90% is the decision you make before you ever touch the trigger. This was a decision. "Roger, actual." Her voice was steady, calm, betraying none of the hammering in her chest. "I'll hold." She pulled the trigger. Another target down at 920 yards. The man had been setting up a machine gun position. 34 rounds left. 8 minutes. 42 targets. The math wasn't good, but math had never stopped Kira Brennan before. The morning sun hadn't yet burned off the dew when Kira arrived at the shooting range. 0530 hours. The qualification was scheduled for 0800, but she'd learned long ago that preparation was the difference between success and failure, between life and death, between proving them right and proving them wrong. She'd been proving them wrong her entire life. At 5'3" and 118 pounds, Kira Brennan didn't look like a Navy SEAL. She didn't look like someone who could carry an 85-pound pack through 20 miles of mountains. She didn't look like someone who could put a bullet through a target's skull at 1,000 yards while her own heart hammered at 160 beats per minute from sheer exhaustion. She especially didn't look like someone who belonged among the elite of the elite, the ones who operated in shadows and never talked about the things they'd seen, the things they'd done. But looks, Kira had learned, were the most honest form of deception. Her grandfather had taught her that. Master Gunnery Sergeant Callum the Reaper Brennan, Marine Force Recon, 87 confirmed kills in Desert Storm. He'd been 5'6", small for a Marine, small for a man who'd earned legendary status among snipers. "Size don't mean nothing," he'd told her when she was 12, teaching her to shoot on his Montana ranch. "It's about stillness, about patience, about making the decision before the world even knows there's a decision to be made." She'd never met her father. Captain Dylan Brennan, Army Ranger, killed in Mogadishu when Kira was 13 months old. Battle of Mogadishu, October 3rd, 1993. He died pulling wounded men to safety while under heavy fire. That's what the citation said. Purple Heart, Silver Star, a flag folded into a triangle that lived in a box in her closet. She knew him only through photographs and stories. Through the Ranger tab her grandfather had framed on the wall. through the weight of expectation that came with being a Brennan. Her grandfather had raised her after that, taught her everything: shooting, tracking, survival, honor, discipline, sacrifice, how to breathe, how to wait, how to squeeze a trigger so smoothly that the rifle never knew it was coming. He died 3 years ago. Heart failure at 73, peaceful in his sleep. She'd cried for a week. Then she'd enlisted. Now here she was, 5 years later, standing on a range at Fort Bragg with 300 SEAL candidates about to watch her either succeed spectacularly or fail publicly. The qualification was simple in theory: 10 targets at 1,000 yards, 2 minutes. Perfect score required, 10 out of 10. In practice, it was designed to separate the merely excellent from the truly elite. Kira had been shooting since she was 8 years old. She'd put 10,000 rounds through rifles before she was 16. She could judge wind speed by feel, calculate bullet drop in her head, compensate for temperature and humidity without thinking about it. She'd aced every shooting test the Navy had thrown at her. But this wasn't just about shooting. This was about Commander Garrett Blackwell, 54 years old, 28 years in the teams. Old school didn't begin to describe him. He'd been a SEAL when women weren't even allowed in combat roles. He'd fought in Panama in 1989, in Somalia in 93, in Iraq through 2 wars and a dozen deployments in between. He had 17 confirmed kills, 3 Bronze Stars, 2 Purple Hearts, a Navy Cross, and he'd made it crystal clear, in 100 small ways, that he didn't believe women belonged in the SEALs. Not because they weren't capable, he'd say when pressed, just because combat was ugly, brutal, physical in ways that required a certain kind of strength that, in his experience, women generally didn't possess. It was a careful argument, politically correct enough to avoid reprimand, vague enough to be defensible, and completely full of shit. Kira had known men like Blackwell her whole life. Men who smiled and said the right words but whose eyes told the real story. Men who'd watch her shoot, nod appreciatively, then make a comment about how she must have been trained by someone good or how she had surprising talent. Never just talent, always surprising. As if her being competent was some kind of anomaly to be puzzled over, rather than a skill earned through 10,000 hours of practice and genetic predisposition towards steady hands and excellent vision. Her grandfather had warned her, "You're going to have to be twice as good to be considered half as qualified," he'd said. "That's just the way it is. You can be angry about it, or you can use it. Make them underestimate you. Then show them what underestimation costs." So she had. Through BUD/S training, Basic Underwater Demolition/SEAL. Through Hell Week. Through every test, every qualification, every moment where instructors watched her a little more carefully, doubted her a little more readily, celebrated her successes a little less enthusiastically than they did for the men. She'd become one of 3 women to ever earn the SEAL Trident. And still, Blackwell looked at her like she was a diversity hire. Today would change that, one way or another. By 0800 hours, the range was crowded. 300 candidates, maybe more. Word had spread that Brennan was qualifying today. Some came to support her. Most came to see if she'd fail. Commander Blackwell stood at the firing line, clipboard in hand, expression neutral. He ran these qualifications personally, made a point of it. Every shooter got the same treatment, his full attention, his exacting standards, his complete impartiality. That's what he'd say, anyway. Kira had watched him run qualifications before. She'd noticed things. The way he'd nod encouragingly at male shooters who were struggling. The way he'd make small allowances, an extra 30 seconds here, a generous call on a borderline hit there. Little things that added up. She didn't expect those little things today. "Corporal Brennan," Blackwell's voice carried across the range. "You're up." Kira walked to the line. 300 pairs of eyes followed her. Some curious, some skeptical, some hostile. She ignored them all. Focus on the rifle. Focus on the targets. Focus on the decision. The weapon rack held a dozen M40A3 sniper rifles, standard issue. She'd qualified on this exact model 100 times, knew every quirk, every adjustment, every millimeter of its capabilities. She reached for the nearest one. Not that one. Blackwell's voice stopped her hand mid-reach. Use this one. He handed her a different rifle. Same model, but something in the way he held it, the way he passed it to her, made Kira's instincts scream. She took it, hefted it. The weight was right. 30 pounds, fully loaded. She brought it to her shoulder, sighted down the barrel toward the targets 1,000 yards downrange. Worked the bolt. The action was stiff. Not impossible, but noticeably harder than it should be. She lowered the rifle, looked at Blackwell. His face was neutral, professional, but his eyes held a challenge. Problem, Corporal? The range had gone quiet. 300 people watching, waiting. Kira ejected the magazine, locked the bolt back, examined the chamber. The firing pin looked worn, not broken, but close. One or two more shots and it might fail completely. She checked the scope. The reticle was off. 3 MOA to the left. Enough to make every shot miss by nearly a foot at 1,000 yards. Someone had sabotaged this rifle. Subtly, professionally, in a way that wouldn't be obvious until you tried to shoot it. And Blackwell had specifically handed it to her. Sir, Kira's voice was calm, this weapon is compromised. Blackwell raised an eyebrow. Compromised how? Firing pin is failing. Scope is misaligned. Is that right? Not a question, a statement. Well, Corporal, here's the thing about combat. You don't always get pristine equipment. Sometimes your rifle gets dropped. Sometimes it gets sand in the mechanism. Sometimes you have to make do with what you've got. He stepped closer, lowered his voice so only she could hear. SEALs adapt. SEALs overcome. SEALs don't make excuses. Then louder for the crowd. Do it yourself, Corporal. That's what SEALs do. Fix it or fail. Your choice. The words hung in the air. Do it yourself. Said with just enough emphasis that everyone watching would remember it, would associate those words with this moment, with her. If she asked for a different rifle, she'd be seen as someone who made excuses, someone who couldn't adapt. If she tried to shoot with this rifle as is, she'd fail. 10 targets, 2 minutes, perfect score. With a failing firing pin and a misaligned scope, she'd be lucky to hit 5. Blackwell was giving her an impossible choice. Fail by asking for help, or fail by trying without it. He was smiling now, barely, just a slight upturn at the corner of his mouth. Somewhere in the crowd, someone laughed. Not loud, just enough to be heard. Kira looked at the rifle in her hands, looked at the targets downrange, looked at Blackwell's smug face. Then she knelt down, set the rifle on the ground, and pulled out her field kit. "What are you doing?" Blackwell asked. Kira didn't answer. She was already disassembling the rifle. Bolt out, firing pin exposed. She had a spare pin in her kit. Every sniper carried one. 60 seconds of work with tools she knew as well as her own hands. The firing pin was easy. The scope was the problem. She could try to realign it, but that would take time she didn't have. The test was 2 minutes. She'd already burned 1 minute on the firing pin. So she did the only logical thing. She removed the scope entirely. 300 people watching in complete silence now. Even the wind seemed to have stopped. Kira reassembled the rifle, loaded the magazine, stood up, brought the rifle to her shoulder. Iron sights, no scope, 1,000 yards, 10 targets, 90 seconds remaining. "You've got to be kidding me," someone in the crowd said it. Kira didn't know who, didn't care. She found the first target through the iron sights. A black circle on white paper, 1,000 yards away. At this distance, it was barely visible. A dark smudge against the backstop. Wind was 8 miles per hour, left to right. Temperature was 72 degrees. Humidity was high. Rained last night. ground still wet. All of that affected the bullet's flight path. With a scope, she could adjust precisely. With iron sights, she had to do the math in her head and trust her instincts. Kira breathed out slowly, let her heart rate settle, found the space between heartbeats where the body goes perfectly still. Squeezed. The rifle bucked. A second later, downrange, the target showed a hit, center mass. She worked the bolt, found target 2, adjusted for wind, squeezed, hit, target 3, 4, 5. Each shot took 5 seconds. Sight, breathe, adjust, squeeze. 10 seconds if she had to recalculate for changing wind. She had 90 seconds for 10 shots. The crowd wasn't silent anymore. People were whispering, pointing. She heard her name, heard her grandfather's name. Ignore it. Focus. 6, 7, 8, 9. 70 seconds gone. 1 shot left. 1 target. 20 seconds remaining. But when Kira looked for target 10, she saw Blackwell had walked downrange. Was standing next to the target marker, arms crossed, watching her. Target 10 was directly behind him. If she missed, if the wind shifted, if she made any mistake at all, Blackwell wasn't just testing her shooting, he was testing her nerve. Kira found the target through the sights. Blackwell was standing 15 feet to the left. Close enough that any miss could be dangerous. Close enough that any hesitation would be obvious. She could take the 9 out of 10. Explain that shooting past the range officer was unsafe. That would be the reasonable thing to do. But reasonable wasn't what today was about. She adjusted her stance, breathed out, found that space of perfect stillness, and squeezed. The bullet passed 6 feet to Blackwell's right, covered the 1,000 yards in under 2 seconds, and punched through the center of target 10. Blackwell didn't flinch, didn't move, just stared at her across the distance. Kira lowered the rifle. Silence, complete and total. 300 people holding their breath. Then Blackwell walked back to the firing line, checked the targets through his binoculars, marked his clipboard. 9 out of 10, he announced. Target 6 was a miss, 2 inches left of center. Minimum passing score is 10 out of 10. Kira looked at him. Target 6 had been a clean hit. She'd seen it. Sir, I'd like to verify target 6. Are you questioning my assessment, Corporal? I'm requesting verification, sir. Standard protocol. Blackwell's jaw tightened. But protocol was protocol. He couldn't refuse without looking petty. Fine, but you're burning your own time. They walked downrange together. The crowd followed. 300 people trooping across the range to look at one target. Target 6 had a bullet hole 3/4 of an inch from dead center, well within the passing margin. That's a pass, sir, Kira said quietly. Blackwell stared at the target. His face was unreadable. 9 out of 10, he said again. You failed. Sir, the requirement is 10 targets. You shot 9. Target 10 was not engaged within the time limit. Sir, I shot all 10 targets. You shot 9 targets and a win flag. Blackwell pointed downrange past the targets. Target 10 was never engaged. Time ran out. Kira followed his pointing finger. In the distance, 200 yards past the targets, a wind measurement flag hung on a pole. It was split clean in half, the pole itself cracked from a bullet impact. She'd been so focused on the numbered targets, she hadn't even looked beyond them. But Blackwell was right. She'd hit 9 of 10 numbered targets. The 10th, wait. She turned back to the firing line, looked at where target 10 should be. The target was there, but it was pristine, unmarked, no bullet hole. Someone had switched the targets. Between her 9th shot and her 10th, in those few seconds when she was focusing on Blackwell's position, someone had swapped out target 10 for a clean one. Sir, Kira's voice was hard now. Target 10 was hit. Someone switched the target. That's a serious accusation, Corporal. Are you saying someone here sabotaged your qualification? The way he said it, the slight emphasis on someone, the raised eyebrow. He was daring her to accuse him directly, in front of 300 witnesses. If she did, she'd look paranoid, unstable, making excuses. If she didn't, she'd failed. Kira looked at the clean target, looked at Blackwell's satisfied face, looked at the distant wind flag, split in half at 1,247 yards. Then she made a decision. "Sir, request permission to take one more shot. Your time is up." "Not at the numbered target, sir, at the wind flag." Blackwell's eyes narrowed. "What?" "The wind flag, 1,247 yards. You said I shot it instead of target 10, but that implies I was aiming at it." She paused. "I wasn't. That was a miss." The crowd murmured. Someone laughed nervously. "So you're admitting you missed?" Blackwell said. "No, sir. I'm saying if I can hit that flagpole on purpose, from 1,000 yards, with iron sights, then maybe you'll reconsider my qualification." "That's impossible." "Then I'll fail. But if I hit it, you pass me. Deal?" Blackwell studied her. She could see him calculating. The flag was 1,247 yards. With iron sights, that was nearly impossible. Maybe one shot in 100, even for an expert. If she missed, she looked like a fool. If by some miracle she hit it, well, she'd still only hit 9 numbered targets. He could still fail her on a technicality. "Fine," he said. "One shot. You miss, you're done here. Forever." Kira walked back to the firing line. The crowd followed, buzzing with whispers. She picked up the rifle, checked the chamber. 1 round left in the magazine. 1,247 yards. Iron sights. Wind shifting now, probably 10 miles per hour. Variable direction. The flagpole was 6 inches wide. At this distance, through iron sights, it was invisible. Just a thin, vertical line against the sky. Kira brought the rifle to her shoulder, found where she thought the flag should be, thought about her grandfather. Desert Storm, Kuwait, 1991. 12 shots, 12 kills, 6 hours pinned down. They called him the Reaper because death followed his bullets with absolute certainty. Thought about her father. Mogadishu, 1993. Died pulling wounded men to safety. Never hesitated, never quit. Thought about Mac Rutherford, her team leader. 10% is the shot, 90% is the decision. This was the decision. She breathed out, found the stillness, made the calculation not with math, but with instinct, with 10,000 hours of practice compressed into a single moment of clarity, and pulled the trigger. The Barrett roared. The bullet left the barrel at 2,800 feet per second, began dropping immediately, began drifting in the wind. 2.5 seconds of flight time. 2.5 seconds where physics and ballistics and a dozen variables all had to align perfectly. Downrange, 1,247 yards away, the flagpole exploded. Not just hit, shattered. The steel pole itself split clean in half, the flag tumbling away in pieces. The crowd erupted, shouting, cheering, applause that rolled across the range like thunder. Kira lowered the rifle, looked at Blackwell. His face had gone pale. Not angry, shocked, like he'd just seen something impossible become real. "Lucky shot," he said quietly, but there was no conviction in it. Kira stepped closer, kept her voice low enough that only Blackwell could hear. "My grandfather made a shot like that in Kuwait, 1991, saved Colonel Garrett Stone's life. Stone was pinned down, 3 hostiles about to overrun his position. Grandfather was 1,200 yards out, made 3 shots in 5 seconds. 3 kills. Stone lived." She paused, watched Blackwell's face. "Stone told me that story personally, said it was the most incredible shooting he'd ever witnessed, said he owed Callum Brennan his life." Blackwell's jaw clenched. "Stone also told me," Kira continued, "that the hardest thing about being a leader isn't knowing who's good. It's admitting when you're wrong." She handed him the rifle, started to walk away. Corporal Brennan, she stopped, turned back. Blackwell was looking at his clipboard, at the scores, at the crowd watching him. When he looked up, something in his face had changed. Not warmth, not acceptance, but something closer to respect. "Welcome to SEAL Team 3, he said, voice carrying across the range. "Don't make me regret this." The crowd cheered again. This time Kira heard her name, heard people shouting, "Congratulations." She just nodded at Blackwell and walked away. Behind her, someone was laughing. Someone else was replaying what they'd just seen. The impossible shot, the shattered pole. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them underestimate her. Because Kira Brennan had just learned something important about Commander Garrett Blackwell. He wasn't just old guard prejudice. Something darker lurked behind those eyes. Something that set off every alarm bell her grandfather had taught her to listen to. She'd have to remember that, file it away, because she had a feeling this wasn't over. That Blackwell's grudging acceptance today was just the opening move in a longer game. But for now, for this moment, she'd won. She'd proven she belonged, and that was enough. 4 days later, Syria. The briefing room at the forward operating base was cramped and hot. 6 people packed into a space designed for 4. Sweat stained everyone's uniforms. The air conditioning had been broken for 3 days. Kira sat in the back, M4A1 carbine leaning against her leg, notebook open on her lap. Around her, SEAL Team 3 listened as the intelligence officer ran through the mission details. "Target is a suspected weapons cache," the IO said, pointing at a map projected on the wall. "Border region, 15 clicks from Turkish line. Compound here," he tapped the screen. 3 buildings, minimal security. Recon suggests maybe 6 to 8 hostiles. Local militia, not trained military. "What kind of weapons?" That was Master Chief Colton Rutherford, Mac, team leader. 38 years old, 18 years in the teams. His voice was always calm, always measured. The kind of voice that made you feel like everything was under control, even when the world was exploding around you. Small arms mostly, AKs, RPGs, maybe some IEDs. Standard stuff for the region. Intel source? Signal intercept. NSA flagged communications 3 days ago. Chatter about a shipment arriving. High value. Mac nodded, didn't look convinced. Kira had learned to read his expressions over the past month. The slight tightness around his eyes meant he was skeptical, but didn't have enough information to push back yet. "Rules of engagement?" asked Lieutenant Bryce Holbrook. 29, communications specialist. Good kid. Still had that fresh confidence that came from not having been shot at enough times yet. "Observe and report. If you can secure the weapons, do it. If not, document and exfil. This is a recon mission, not an assault." "Who else knows about this?" Petty Officer Declan Murphy spoke up. Doc, 42, medic and intelligence specialist. He'd been in the teams longer than anyone except Mac. Had a doctorate in Middle Eastern studies from Georgetown. Spoke Arabic, Farsi, and Kurdish fluently. The guy was brilliant and had saved more lives than Kira could count. Just us in higher command. Need to know only. Doc and Mac exchanged a look. Kira saw it. So did everyone else. "Something you want to share, Master Chief?" the IO asked. Mac leaned back in his chair. "How solid is this intel?" "Solid enough to send you in." "That's not an answer." The IO's face tightened. "The intel is good, Master Chief. NSA doesn't flag things unless they're confident. NSA isn't going to be on the ground with us. That's above my pay grade. You have your orders." The briefing wrapped up 10 minutes later. Mission launch was 0200 hours. 4 hours to prep. As they filed out, Mac pulled Kira aside. "What do you think?" he asked. "About the mission?" "About the intel." Kira considered. Mac didn't ask questions like that unless he already had an opinion and wanted to see if you agreed. "Feels thin," she said. "Signal intercept is circumstantial. No visual confirmation. No local human to back it up. Yeah, Mac nodded. Yeah, that's what I thought too. You think it's bad? I think something feels off. Can't put my finger on it. He glanced around, made sure they were alone. Keep your eyes open out there, Phantom. Trust your gut. Phantom, her call sign. Earned during training when she'd managed to slip past every sensor and guard during a nighttime infiltration exercise. One instructor had joked she was like a phantom, there one moment, gone the next, leaving only dead targets behind. The name stuck. Will do, Chief. Max squeezed her shoulder. Your grandfather would be proud of you, kid. You know that, right? Think so? Know so. I met him once. Kuwait, 91. I was just a new guy, fresh to the teams. We got pinned down by enemy fire. Callum was attached to us as a sniper. Made 3 shots in about 5 seconds. Saved my life. Kira had heard the story before, but she never got tired of hearing it. He ever talk about it? Mac asked. Not much. He didn't like talking about the kills. Good snipers never do, Mac smiled. Bad ones brag, good ones remember. There's a difference. 0200 hours came fast. The team loaded into a Black Hawk helicopter, lifted off into darkness. 40-minute flight to the drop zone, then a 3-click hike to the target compound. The desert at night was cold and empty. Stars overhead, terrain below reduced to shadows and thermal signatures. Kira moved with the team, M4A1 ready, eyes scanning constantly. This was her first actual combat mission with Team 3. She'd trained with them for a month, run drills, proven herself in exercises. But exercises weren't real. Exercises had safety protocols and do-overs and medical support 30 seconds away. This was different. This was the reason she'd endured BOOD/S. The reason she'd pushed through every moment of doubt, every voice telling her she didn't belong. This was real. They reached the compound at 0345 hours. 3 buildings arranged in a U-shape around a central courtyard. No lights, no movement. Thermal imaging showed 8 heat signatures inside the main building. Sleeping, probably. Max signaled the team into position. Kira moved to the east side, found a vantage point on a small rise 50 yards from the compound. From here, she could see all 3 buildings, cover the entire courtyard. Her job was overwatch. Watch and report. If things went bad, she'd provide covering fire while the team extracted. Simple. Clean. She'd done this 100 times in training. Doc and Holbrook moved in first. Quiet entry through a side door. Kira watched through her rifle scope. Watched them disappear into shadows. Max stayed outside coordinating. He was the anchor, the steady voice keeping everyone connected. Phantom, you got eyes on north side? Mac's voice came through her earpiece. Affirmative, nothing moving. Doc, what's your status? Inside main building. We've got the cache. Stand by. 30 seconds of silence. Kira scanned the perimeter. Nothing. No movement. No vehicles approaching. No lights. Too quiet. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory. When something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't ignore that feeling. That's your brain processing 1,000 small details faster than your conscious mind can track. Something felt wrong. Doc? Max said. Talk to me. Chief, you need to see this. These aren't militia weapons. These are... Static cut him off. Then gunfire erupted. Not from inside the compound, from outside. From 3 directions simultaneously. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness. Bullets tore through the walls of the main building. Ambush. Contact! Mac's voice, sharp now. We're taking fire. Multiple hostiles. All sides. Kira was already moving. Sight picture. First target. 200 yards. Running toward Mac's position. Squeezed. Target dropped. Second target. Third. Fourth. But there were too many. Dozens of them. Professional fighters, not local militia, moving with coordination and discipline. This is a setup, Doc's voice over the radio. These weapons, they're American, DoD serial numbers. American weapons, in a terrorist compound. With DoD serial numbers, that meant someone in the U.S. government had put them here, which meant someone in the U.S. government knew Team 3 would find them, which meant this whole mission was designed to silence them. Fall back to Rally Point Alpha, Mac ordered. Fighting withdrawal. Kira fired again. Again. Covering fire. Buying seconds for her team to extract. Through her scope, she saw Mac moving. Saw him take a round to the leg. Saw him go down. Mac's hit, Holbrook yelled. I got him. Doc was already moving. Combat medic training took over. He reached Mac, started dragging him toward cover. But the enemy had them bracketed, converging from three sides. Team 3 was being herded, pushed into a kill zone. Kira switched to rapid fire, target after target, emptied a magazine, reloaded, kept firing. 8 enemies down. 10. 12. Not enough. There were 40 more. Doc, how bad is he? Holbrook asked. Femoral artery. I can patch it, but I need time. We don't have time. Then he dies. Kira made a decision, stood up from her position, started moving toward the compound at a dead run, firing as she went. Phantom, what are you doing? Mac's voice, weak but furious. Get back to cover. She didn't answer, didn't have breath to spare, just ran and shot and ran some more. Reached the compound, took up position between the enemy and her wounded team leader. Unloaded everything she had, M4A1 on full auto, Sig Sauer pistol when the rifle went dry, flashbangs, grenades, every tool in her kit. She bought Doc 3 minutes. 3 minutes of chaos in violence and controlled aggression. 3 minutes was enough. We're mobile, Doc yelled. Moving to extraction. They ran. Kira covered their withdrawal, picked off stragglers, made every shot count. But there was still one enemy she couldn't see. One sniper hidden somewhere in the darkness. She could feel him, could sense that crosshair painting her back. She spun, scanned the roof lines. Thermal showed a signature on top of the far building. 823 yards, elevated position, weapon aimed at Mac. Not at her, at Mac. The sniper was tracking Mac's movement, going for the kill. Kira brought her rifle up, found the target through her scope. 823 yards. Wind from the east, maybe 6 miles per hour. Elevation significant. Target partially obscured by a wall. It was a difficult shot, maybe a 3-second window before the sniper fired. But Mac was still moving, disoriented from blood loss. If she took the shot now, with Mac in her sight picture, if he stumbled at the wrong moment, if her bullet dropped a fraction of an inch low, no time. No time to calculate, no time to second guess. Just the decision. She squeezed, but in that same instant, the enemy sniper fired too. Kira's bullet flew true. She saw it through the scope, saw it hit the enemy sniper's center mass, saw him topple backward, dead before he hit the ground. But his bullet had already left the barrel, already crossed 800 yards of space, already found its target. Mac jerked, fell. No! Kira was running before she knew she'd moved, covered the distance in seconds, slid to her knees beside him. The bullet had hit him in the chest, right between his armor plates, the gap that every SEAL knew about, that every SEAL accepted as a calculated risk, because perfect protection meant too much weight to move. Doc was already there, already working, hands moving with practiced efficiency, but his face said everything. Mac, Kira grabbed his hand. Mac, stay with me. His eyes found hers, focused, cleared for just a moment. Phantom. His voice was wet, bubbling, blood in his lungs. You did good. Don't. Save your strength. Doc's going to patch you up and... Best I ever trained. His hand tightened on hers. Don't stop. I won't, I promise. Just hold on. But Mac's eyes were already losing focus. His hand went slack. No, no, no. Doc kept working, kept trying. Come on, Chief, stay with us. Stay. Mac's chest stopped moving. Kira felt something break inside her. Some fundamental piece of her worldview that had always assumed the good guys won, that skill and training and courage were enough. They weren't. Mac was dead, and it was her fault. If she'd shot faster, if she'd seen the enemy sniper sooner, if she'd made a different decision. We have to move. Holbrook's voice cut through her spiral. Extraction bird is inbound. 2 minutes. Doc pulled Mac's dog tags, pressed them into Kira's hand. The tags were warm, still held his body heat. For the memorial wall, Doc said quietly, he'd want you to have them. They carried Mac to the extraction point, got him into the helicopter, lifted off into darkness. Kira sat holding his dog tags, holding his hand, watching his face. He looked peaceful. That was something. That was maybe enough. But it wasn't. 3 days later, FOB Ops Center. The after-action report took 6 hours. Every detail documented, every shot logged, every decision analyzed. The official conclusion: Corporal Kira Brennan performed above and beyond, eliminated 14 hostile targets, provided critical covering fire that enabled team extraction, demonstrated exceptional courage under fire, recommended for Silver Star. Master Chief Colton Rutherford, killed in action, combat casualty, line of duty death, Purple Heart, full military honors, mission deemed successful despite casualties. Target compound contains significant weapons cache, evidence documented and secured. The report said nothing about American weapons with DoD serial numbers, said nothing about the ambush being too coordinated, too professional, said nothing about how the enemy knew exactly where Team 3 would be. When Kira asked about it, she was told the matter was above her clearance level and under investigation by appropriate authorities. She knew what that meant. It meant the investigation would go nowhere. It meant the weapons would disappear. It meant whoever set up the ambush would never be held accountable. Mac died protecting a secret someone wanted buried, and Kira couldn't do a damn thing about it. She put in for discharge 3 days later. It was approved within 24 hours. Honorable discharge. Full benefits. Thank you for your service. They wanted her gone, wanted her silent, wanted the whole thing forgotten. So she left, packed her gear, attended Mac's funeral at Arlington, stood in the rain while they folded the flag and played taps, and said all the right words about duty and honor and sacrifice. Then she drove west, drove until she hit Montana, drove until she found her grandfather's cabin, empty now for 3 years but still standing. She moved in, lived alone, spent her days running and shooting and trying not to think about Mac's last words. Don't stop. But she had stopped. She'd quit. She'd walked away. Because what was the point? What was the point of being a SEAL, of being the best, if your own government sent you into traps and covered up the truth and let good men die? 6 months passed. 6 months of isolation and whiskey and nightmares. 6 months of wondering if Mac would be disappointed in her, if her grandfather would be ashamed. Then Admiral Wesley Harrington called, and everything changed. The phone rang at 0600 hours. Kira had been awake for 2 hours already, staring at the ceiling, replaying Mac's death for the 600th time. She almost didn't answer. Nobody called anymore. Nobody knew where she was. That was the point of hiding in Montana, 40 miles from the nearest town, in a cabin with no address and spotty cell service. But the number had a Virginia area code, and something in her gut said this wasn't a telemarketer. Brennan, Corporal Brennan, this is Admiral Wesley Harrington. Kira sat up. Harrington. She knew that name. Her grandfather had mentioned him a dozen times. Best friend from Desert Storm. Had saved his life during a sandstorm ambush. Callum had returned the favor 3 days later with a 1,200-yard shot that took out a sniper about to kill Harrington's entire squad. They'd stayed friends for 30 years after that. Harrington had spoken at her grandfather's funeral, had pulled Kira aside afterward, told her that Callum was the finest Marine he'd ever known, that if she ever needed anything, anything at all, to call him. She'd never called. "Admiral," Kira's voice was flat, "what can I do for you?" "I need you to listen carefully, Kira, and I need you to not hang up until I'm done talking." "I'm listening." "Mac Rutherford didn't die in combat. He was murdered." The words hit like a physical blow. Kira's hand tightened on the phone. "What are you talking about?" "The after-action report was sanitized, classified sections removed, but I have access to the ballistics analysis. The bullet that killed Mac was .338 Lapua Magnum, high-end sniper round, not standard issue for Syrian militia or local terrorists." Kira's mind raced. She remembered that night, remembered the precision of the enemy sniper, the professional setup of the ambush. Who was the shooter? "We don't know, but here's what we do know. In the past 18 months, 4 other members of SEAL Team 3 have died, all in combat, all ruled as casualties of war, all killed by .338 Lapua Magnum rounds. 5 deaths, same weapon, same team." "That's not coincidence," Kira said. "No, it's not. Someone is systematically eliminating Team 3, and we think we know why." Harrington paused. Kira heard papers shuffling on his end. "What did Doc say about those weapons? The ones in the compound?" "He said they were American. DOD serial numbers." He was right. Those weapons were part of a CIA program called Operation Timber Sycamore. Started in 2012, officially ended in 2017. The program armed Syrian rebels to fight Assad. Except some of those rebels became ISIS. Some became other terrorist groups. And when people started asking questions about American weapons showing up in terrorist hands, certain individuals in the government decided the easiest solution was to make the evidence disappear. "And anyone who saw the evidence," Kira said slowly, "gets eliminated." "Yes." "By who?" "By someone we call the architect. Real name unknown. Former Delta Force, we think. Went rogue around 2012. Works exclusively for high-level clients, government officials, intelligence agencies, anyone who can afford him. He's eliminated over 50 targets in the past decade. Journalists, whistleblowers, political opponents, and now your team." Kira stood up, started pacing. Her cabin suddenly felt too small. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're next on his list, and because I'm putting together a team to find him, to stop him, to expose whoever in the government is protecting him." "I'm discharged. I'm not a SEAL anymore. You're Callum Brennan's granddaughter. You're the best sniper I've seen in 30 years, and you're the only survivor of Team 3 who's still alive and capable of fighting back. There are other survivors. Holbrook, Doc. Lieutenant Holbrook died 3 weeks ago. Vehicle accident in Germany. Brake line failure, except the brake line was cut." Kira felt her stomach drop. "And Doc?" "Doc is alive. He's part of the team I'm assembling. So is Colonel Garrett Stone. Delta Force. You may have heard of him." Stone. The name rang a bell. Her grandfather had mentioned him. The officer he'd saved in Kuwait with that legendary 3-shot sequence. "What's the mission?" "Find the architect. Find out who's paying him. Expose the conspiracy. Bring them all down. And if I say no, then you keep hiding in Montana, and eventually the architect finds you, and you die alone. Just like Mac died, just like Holbrook died, just like everyone else who knew too much." Kira looked at Mac's dog tags, hanging on her memorial wall next to her grandfather's photo. Looked at the silver star they'd given her for that night in Syria. The medal felt meaningless now, a participation trophy for surviving while better men died. "When do I start?" "There's a jet waiting at Kalispell Airport. 2 hours, pack light." The line went dead. Kira stood in her cabin for a long moment. Then she started packing. She was done hiding. The others are waiting. He led her through security checkpoints and down corridors that all looked identical. Finally stopped at a conference room door. "Before we go in," Harrington said, "I need you to understand something. This operation doesn't exist. You're not officially reinstated. If things go wrong, the government will deny everything. You'll be on your own." "Understood." "And Kira?" He put a hand on her shoulder. "Your grandfather would be proud. He always believed in doing the right thing, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard." He opened the door. Inside were two people. A man in his late 50s, weather-beaten face, gray hair cut military short, and a woman, mid-30s, sharp eyes behind glasses, fingers flying across a laptop. The man stood up, extended his hand. "Corporal Brennan, Colonel Garrett Stone, your grandfather saved my life in Kuwait. I've been waiting to meet you for a long time." His grip was firm, confident. The grip of someone who'd spent decades in combat and survived. "Colonel, I've heard stories." "All true, unfortunately," Stone smiled, "and probably worse than what you heard." The woman looked up from her laptop. "Dr. Nora Ashford, CIA, Tech and Intelligence Specialist. Also, my brother was killed by the architect 3 years ago, so I have a personal stake in seeing this bastard dead." Straight to the point. Kira appreciated that. "What's the plan?" Kira asked. Stone gestured to the table. Satellite imagery, maps, documents spread across the surface. 3 days from now, there's a weapons deal going down in Afghanistan. Kandahar province. Crimson Syndicate meeting with local buyers. The architect is expected to be there, providing security. Expected or confirmed? Expected, based on communication intercepts in pattern analysis. The architect always shows up when his clients are moving high-value merchandise. "What's the merchandise?" Nora turned her laptop around, showed shipping manifests, inventory lists, military hardware, including Stinger missiles, T-4 rockets, and small arms that match the serial numbers from that compound in Syria. Same batch, same program. "So this is still going on," Kira said, "even after Team 3 found evidence." "Not just going on, accelerating. Whoever's running this has gotten bolder, more careless. They think they're untouchable." Stone leaned forward. "Our job is to prove them wrong. We infiltrate the deal, identify the architect, take him alive if possible, find out who he's working for. And if we can't take him alive," Stone's expression hardened, "then we put a bullet in his head and search his body for answers." Kira looked at the satellite imagery. The compound was in the middle of nowhere, mountains on 3 sides, one road in and out. Perfect place for an ambush, perfect place for a trap. "This feels familiar," she said quietly. "It should," Stone met her eyes. "It's the same tactical setup as Syria, same geographic profile, same everything. So they're using the same playbook, which means we know what to expect, and we can plan accordingly." Nora closed her laptop. "We have 72 hours to prep. Equipment, logistics, contingency plans. After that, we're wheels up to Kandahar." "Just the three of us?" "Just the three of us," Stone confirmed. "Small team, deniable. If this goes sideways, there's no backup. No extraction unless we arrange it ourselves." "Why me?" Kira asked. "You could get a dozen snipers better than me, more experienced." Stone shook his head. "I could get a dozen snipers with more time in service. But better? No. I've seen your jacket. That's shot at the qualification. 1,247 yards with iron sights. That's not training, that's genetics. That's your grandfather's gift passed down. He paused. And more importantly, you have skin in the game. Mac was your mentor, your friend. This isn't just a mission for you, it's personal. That makes you dangerous in all the right ways. Kira thought about Mac, about his last words. Don't stop. She hadn't stopped. She just paused, caught her breath. Now it was time to finish what Mac had started. I'm in. What do you need me to do? The next 72 hours were a blur of preparation, weapons testing, tactical planning, intelligence briefings. Kira threw herself into it with the same intensity she'd brought to BUD/S training. The equipment was impressive. Stone had access to gear that wasn't officially supposed to exist. Barrett M82 with enhanced optics, M4A1 with custom suppressor, night vision that could pick out heat signatures from 2,000 yards. Perks of having 3 decades of connections, Stone said when she asked about it. You make friends in the right places, doors open. They spent hours on the range. Stone wanted to see what Kira could do, wanted to know her limits. She showed him. 1,500 yards, moving target. 15-mile-per-hour crosswind, first shot kill. Stone whistled low. Damn, Callum taught you well. He taught me everything. He tell you about the shot, the one in Kuwait? He mentioned it, 3 shots, 3 kills, 5 seconds. It was 6 seconds, but who's counting? Stone smiled. We were pinned down by Iraqi forces, caught in the open after a patrol went bad. 3 snipers had us bracketed. We couldn't move, couldn't call for air support because the radio was damaged. We were maybe 10 minutes from dying. He paused, remembering. Then Callum just appeared. I didn't even know he was attached to our unit. He set up 1,200 yards out, and in 6 seconds, 3 Iraqi snipers were dead. Perfect headshots. All 3. I didn't even hear the shots until after they were down. He didn't like talking about it, Kira said. Good snipers never do. They carry those kills differently than other soldiers. More personal, more intimate. You look a man in the eye through a scope, even from 1,000 yards away, and pull the trigger. That stays with you. Kira knew what he meant. She'd made 14 kills in Syria, could still see their faces, still remembered the way each one fell, the finality of it. Does it get easier? She asked. No. And if it does, you need to stop. The day killing becomes easy is the day you stop being a soldier and become something else. They trained until dark. Then Nora called them in for final intel briefing. The situation had changed. Thermal satellite shows increased activity at the target compound, Nora said, pulling up real-time imagery. We're counting 20 heat signatures now, up from 12 this morning. Taliban reinforcements? Stone asked. Possibly, or Crimson is bringing more security. Either way, we're outnumbered. We've been outnumbered before, Kira said. Stone nodded. What's the compound layout? Nora zoomed in. 3 buildings, central courtyard. Main structure here is where the deal will happen. Security will be concentrated there. These 2 auxiliary buildings are likely housing for guards. Sightlines? Limited. Mountains restrict long-range approach from north and west. Best overwatch position is here. She tapped the screen. Old Soviet observation post on this ridge. 850 yards from main building. Elevated. Clear line of sight to courtyard and all 3 structures. That's where Phantom sets up, Stone said, using Kira's call sign. Nora and I go in close for the grab. Phantom provides overwatch and covering fire if things go loud. When things go loud, Kira corrected. Stone grinned. Optimist. I like it. Nora pulled up more imagery. Here's the problem. Only one road in and out. If they block it, we're trapped. Nearest extraction point is 5 clicks north. Through mountains. On foot, carrying a prisoner, under fire? That's a nightmare scenario. So we don't let it become a nightmare, Stone said. We go in quiet. Grab the architect. Slip out before anyone knows we're there. And if he's not there, Kira asked, then we abort. Wait for another opportunity. But Kira could see in Stone's face that he didn't believe that. This was their one shot. If they missed it, the architect would disappear. Whoever was protecting him would tighten security. Team 3 would never get justice. Mac would never get justice. We won't miss, Kira said. Stone looked at her, nodded slowly. No, we won't. The Black Hawk insertion was smooth. Pilot was a Night Stalker, 161st Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the best. Dropped them 5 clicks from target at 0200 hours, low and fast, then disappeared into the darkness. The silence after the helicopter left was absolute. Just wind and darkness, and 3 people who didn't exist on any official roster, hunting a ghost who'd killed dozens. They moved through the mountains like shadows, Stone on point, Nora in the middle with her tech gear, Kira bringing up rear security. No talking, just hand signals and thermal imaging, and the kind of teamwork that only came from people who understood that one mistake meant everyone died. 3 hours of movement, slow, careful. Every step calculated to avoid making noise, avoid leaving traces, avoid triggering any early warning systems. By 0530 hours, they were in position. Kira on the ridge, Barrett M82 set up with perfect sightline to the compound below. Stone and Nora 200 yards closer, hidden in a depression that gave them cover and concealment. Now came the hardest part, waiting. The deal was scheduled for 800 hours. That meant 2.5 hours of lying completely still, maintaining position, staying alert. Kira had done this 1,000 times in training, had done it twice in combat, but it never got easier. The mental discipline required to stay absolutely motionless for hours while your body screamed for movement, while your mind tried to wander, while boredom fought with alertness. She used the time to check her gear, confirmed 0 on her scope, calculated wind speed and direction, memorized every inch of the compound through her optics. 14 guards visible, rotating patrols, professional, disciplined, not militia. These were trained operators. At 0745 hours, vehicles arrived. 3 black SUVs, armored judging by how they sat on their suspension. Crimson Syndicate. Kira counted personnel as they exited. 12 men, all armed, all moving with military precision. Through her scope, she identified faces, ran them against the mental database she'd memorized from Nora's briefings. Target 1, Viktor Kozlov, Crimson Syndicate Operations Chief, former Russian Spetsnaz, went private in 2014, suspected of arms dealing, human trafficking, drug smuggling, smart, ruthless. Target 2, unknown male, Middle Eastern, 40s, expensive robes, moved with authority. Target 3, Kira's breath caught. Target 3 was Commander Garrett Blackwell, the man who'd sabotaged her rifle during qualification, the man who'd grudgingly accepted her into Team 3, the man who'd been a SEAL for 28 years. He was here, at an illegal weapons deal, with terrorists. Stone, Kira whispered into her radio. We have a problem. Talk to me. Blackwell is here. Commander Garrett Blackwell, SEAL Team 3. Silence on the radio. Then Stone's voice, hard as steel. You're sure? Positive, ID. He's talking with Kozlov right now. More silence. Kira could imagine Stone processing this. A SEAL commander involved with Crimson Syndicate. The implications were staggering. Does he see you? Stone asked. Negative. I'm 850 yards out. But Stone, if Blackwell is involved, then he's the leak. He's the one who set up the ambush in Syria. He's the one who ordered the hits on Team 3. Kira felt rage building in her chest. Blackwell had sent them into that compound, had known it was a trap, had known Mac would die. All for what? Money? Power? To protect an illegal weapons program? New mission, Stone said. We take him alive. Find out who else is involved. What about the architect? We'll deal with him if he shows, but Blackwell is priority one now. Kira tracked Blackwell through her scope, watched him examine the weapons crates, watched him nod approvingly at what he saw. American weapons, American betrayal. Then the situation changed. Kira's scope picked up movement on the North Ridge. Thermal signature. Someone in a hide position. Professional setup. Long rifle. Stone, we have company. Sniper position. North Ridge. 1,200 yards from compound. The architect? Possible. He's set up to cover the deal. Overwatch position, just like mine. Can you take him? Kira calculated. 1,200 yards to the enemy sniper. Uphill shot. Wind gusting now at 10 miles per hour. He was partially concealed behind rocks. Difficult, but doable. Affirmative, but if I shoot, everyone in that compound will know we're here. Hold fire for now. Let's see how this plays out. Kira kept her scope on the enemy sniper. Watched him settle into position. Watched him aim not at the compound, but at Stone and Nora's position. He'd spotted them. Stone, he's made you. He's aiming at your position right now. Copy, break contact, the enemy sniper fired. Kira saw the muzzle flash, heard the distant crack of the rifle. Stone's position erupted, not from a bullet, from an explosion. Mortar round. The sniper's shot had been a signal. Contact! We're taking fire! Stone's voice shouting now. Multiple hostiles! This is a trap! Of course it was a trap. Just like Syria, they'd been expected. Someone had tipped off Crimson Syndicate. Someone had told them an American team was coming. And Kira would bet everything she owned that someone was Commander Garrett Blackwell. The compound below exploded into activity. Guards grabbing weapons, vehicles starting engines, Blackwell diving for cover, and from 3 directions, dozens of Taliban fighters emerged from hidden positions. At least 40, maybe more. They'd been waiting. The entire deal had been bait. Kira made a decision. Made it in the space between heartbeats, the way her grandfather had taught her. The way Mac had reinforced. 10% is the shot. 90% is the decision. She acquired the enemy sniper. 1,200 yards. Gusting wind. Uphill. Partially concealed. Breathed out. Found the stillness. Squeezed. The Barrett roared. The enemy sniper's thermal signature disappeared. Direct hit. But now every hostile in a mile radius knew where she was. Phantom, what's your status? Stone yelled over the radio. In position. I've got eyes on the whole AO. How many hostiles on your position? Too many. We're pinned down. Can't extract. Kira scanned through her scope. Counted heat signatures. 43 hostiles converging on Stone and Nora's position. They'd be overrun in minutes, unless someone stopped them. She looked at her ammunition. 37 rounds, 43 targets. The math wasn't good. But math had never stopped her before. Stone, I need you to get to that building at grid reference Echo 7, the one with the intact roof. That's 300 yards through open ground. It's the only defensible position. I'll cover you, but you need to move now. Phantom, now, Colonel. She heard Stone relay orders to Nora. Then they were moving. Kira saw them through her scope. 2 figures sprinting through hell while bullets tore up the ground around them. Kira started shooting. Target 1, hostile at 600 yards firing at Stone. Headshot. Down. Target 2, hostile setting up machine gun position, 750 yards. Center mass. Down. Target 3, hostile throwing grenade toward Nora. Shot him mid-throw. Grenade detonated in his hand. 4, 5, 6. She worked the bolt action like a machine. Smooth. Mechanical. Every shot a kill. Every kill bought Stone and Nora another second. They reached the building. disappeared inside. "We're in," Stone gasped. "But we're trapped. They've got us surrounded." Kira kept shooting, kept thinning the enemy numbers. 28 rounds left, 37 hostiles remaining. Then she saw Blackwell. He was running for one of the SUVs, trying to escape. She could shoot him, could end him right now. One bullet, justice for Mac, for Holbrook, for everyone. But Stone had said, take him alive. They needed answers. Kira adjusted her aim, led the target, calculated his speed, his trajectory, squeezed. The bullet hit the SUV's engine block. The vehicle died instantly. Blackwell dove for cover behind it, trapped. But Kira couldn't capitalize. Too many hostiles still active. Had to keep protecting Stone. 25 rounds left, 32 hostiles. The numbers weren't improving. And then her radio crackled. Different voice, not Stone, not Nora. "Phantom, I'm impressed." She knew that voice. Knew it from recordings Nora had played during briefings. Voice analysis matched to kill sites, to intercepted communications. The architect. "You took out my spotter, 1,200 yards, one shot, clean kill. That's professional work." Kira scanned for the source of the transmission. He was using her frequency. Had to be close. "But now you're alone. Your team is pinned. Extraction is impossible. You have maybe 25 rounds left, and I have 40 fighters closing on your position." How did he know her ammunition count? Was he watching her? She adjusted position, moved 10 feet to the right, stayed low. "Your grandfather was good," the architect continued. "I trained under him. Force Recon Advanced Course, 2004. He taught me everything about long-range shooting." Kira's blood ran cold. "That's right, Phantom. Callum Brennan was my instructor, my mentor, the best I ever learned from." "Then you dishonor him," Kira said into her radio. "No, I honor him by being the best at what he taught me, by surviving when lesser men die. He taught you to protect. You became a murderer. I became what the situation required, just like you did in Syria. You killed 14 men that night, 14 fathers, sons, brothers. How is that different from what I do? They were trying to kill my team, and the people I kill are trying to destroy my clients. Same thing, different perspective." Kira found him. Thermal signature on the East Ridge, 900 yards, perfect hide position. He'd been there the whole time, watching, waiting. "I'm giving you a chance," the architect said. "Walk away, leave your team, disappear. I'll let you live. You're too good to waste." "Not happening. Then you die here, today, along with Stone and that CIA analyst. And it'll be for nothing, because Blackwell will escape. The conspiracy will continue, and Mac Rutherford will remain just another name on a wall." Kira's finger tightened on the trigger. She had a shot, 900 yards, clear sightline. But if she took it, she'd expose her position. The 40 hostiles would know exactly where she was, would converge on her location. She'd die taking that shot. "What's it going to be, Phantom? Live or die?" She thought about Mac, thought about his last words. "Don't stop." She thought about her grandfather, thought about the legacy he'd passed down, the responsibility that came with being a Brennan. She thought about Stone and Nora, trapped in that building, waiting for her decision. 10% is the shot, 90% is the decision. This was the decision. "Stone," she said into her radio, "when I take this shot, you'll have maybe 60 seconds before they locate my position. Use that time. Get to the North Ridge. There's a drainage ditch that'll give you cover most of the way." "Phantom, what are you?" "Tell my grandfather I'm sorry. Tell Mac I finished it." She didn't wait for a response, just acquired the architect through her scope. 900 yards, slight crosswind, target unaware she'd made her choice. She squeezed. The bullet flew true, hit the architect, center mass. She saw him jerk backward, saw the thermal signature change as blood spread across his chest. One shot, one kill. But now every hostile knew where she was. She saw them turning, saw muzzle flashes lighting up as they opened fire on her position. Kira relocated immediately, moved 50 yards west to a secondary position she'd scouted hours ago, set up the Barrett, started engaging. 23 rounds left, 38 hostiles. Because more had shown up. Drawn by the chaos, she shot with mechanical precision. No wasted movement, no hesitation. Just breathe, acquire, squeeze. Breathe, acquire, squeeze. 15 hostiles down, 8 rounds left, 23 hostiles converging on her new position. She switched to her M4A1. Closer range, faster fire rate. Stone's voice on the radio. "Phantom, we're moving. Keep them off us." She did. Burned through 3 magazines providing covering fire. Bought them the time they needed. "We're clear," Stone yelled. "We're at the drainage ditch." Kira's rifle clicked empty. She dropped it, drew her Sig Sauer pistol. 5 hostiles reached her position. She shot 2, hand to hand with the third. K-bar knife from her belt. Throat cut. 4th hostile grabbed her from behind. She threw him over her shoulder, shot him twice. 5th hostile was bigger, stronger. They grappled. He got her on the ground, hands around her throat. Her vision tunneled. Darkness creeping in. She found her knife. Steadied her hands through pure willpower. Found the stillness one last time. Squeezed. The round hit the vehicle's tire. Blackwell stumbled. Fell. 2 rounds left. Hostiles were 50 yards away now, running toward her. 20 of them. She couldn't stop them all, but she'd done what she came to do. Stopped the architect. Trapped Blackwell. Gave Stone and Nora time to escape. Mac could rest now. She aimed at the lead hostile, was about to fire when a sound made her look up. Helicopters, 2 of them, coming in fast and low. "Phantom, this is Harrington," the Admiral's voice over the radio. "Extraction inbound. Mark your position." Kira pulled a smoke grenade, popped it. Green smoke poured out. The helicopters descended. Door gunners opened up with M240 machine guns. The hostiles broke and ran. One helicopter touched down 30 yards from Kira's position. A crew chief jumped out, ran to her, helped her up. "Let's go." She grabbed her Barrett, stumbled toward the helicopter, was hauled inside. Through the open door, she saw the second helicopter extracting Stone and Nora. They'd made it. Against impossible odds, they'd actually made it. The helicopter banked hard, gained altitude. The compound shrank below them. Kira collapsed against the bulkhead. Every part of her body hurt. She was bleeding from a dozen places she couldn't identify. But she was alive, and the architect was dead. The crew chief was talking to her, checking her wounds. But his voice sounded distant, muffled. She thought about Mac, wondered if he was proud, if he understood why she'd had to risk everything. "Don't stop," he'd said. She hadn't. The last thing she saw before passing out was the sunrise. Beautiful, golden, promising a new day. Then darkness took her. Kira woke up in a hospital bed. White walls, antiseptic smell, the steady beep of monitors tracking her vitals. Her first thought was that she'd been captured, that the whole extraction had been a hallucination brought on by blood loss and trauma, that she was in an enemy facility waiting for interrogation. Then she saw Stone sitting in a chair by the window. His leg was in a cast. His face was bandaged. but he was alive. "Welcome back," he said. Kira tried to sit up. Pain shot through her shoulder and ribs. She gasped. "Easy. You've got 3 cracked ribs, a dislocated shoulder we had to reset twice, multiple lacerations, and a concussion. Doctor says you're lucky to be alive." "How long was I out?" 36 hours. We're at Walter Reed, secure wing. Official story is you were in a training accident." Kira processed that. Training accident. The government's favorite cover story for classified operations gone wrong. "The architect? Dead. You put a .50 caliber round through his chest. We recovered the body. Fingerprints confirmed his identity. His real name was Graham Blackwell." Kira's mind stuttered on that name. Blackwell, as in Commander Garrett Blackwell's younger brother, former Delta Force, went rogue in 2012, been working as an assassin for a decade. Brothers, the commander and the killer, working together. "Where's Garrett Blackwell now?" Stone's expression darkened. "That's complicated. We didn't get him. He escaped during the extraction. But Nora managed to plant a tracker on his vehicle before things went sideways. We've been following him for the past day and a half." "Following him where?" "To a private estate in Maryland, Chesapeake Bay. The property is owned by Secretary of Defense Timothy Blackwell." The name hit like a physical blow. Secretary of Defense, the highest military official in the government outside the president himself. "Timothy Blackwell," Kira said slowly. "Let me guess, another brother." "Oldest of 3, Timothy's been SecDef for 9 years. Garrett's been in the SEALs for 28. Graham's been killing for 12. All working together. A family business." Kira's head spun. The conspiracy went higher than she'd imagined. Higher than anyone had imagined. "Operation Timber Sycamore wasn't just some rogue CIA program," Stone continued. "It was Timothy Blackwell's creation. He's been selling American weapons to terrorists for over a decade, making hundreds of millions. His brother Garrett identified targets who got too close. His brother Graham eliminated them." "Mac knew," Kira said. "That's why they killed him." "Mac knew more than we thought. The night before Syria, he'd contacted a journalist at the Washington Post, said he had evidence of government corruption, documentary proof." Stone pulled out a tablet, showed Kira encrypted files. "We found these on Mac's personal laptop, heavily encrypted. He'd been documenting everything for 6 months. Photos of serial numbers, audio recordings of classified briefings. He knew about Operation Timber Sycamore. He knew weapons were still flowing even after the program ended. And Timothy found out," Kira said slowly. "Garrett found out. He'd been monitoring Mac's communications, reported back to Timothy. That's when they decided Mac was too dangerous to live. They set up the Syria ambush specifically to eliminate him." Kira felt rage building. Mac hadn't just stumbled onto evidence. He'd been actively fighting the conspiracy, and they'd killed him for it. "Where's Doc?" she asked. "Safe. In protective custody. He's been working with Harrington to compile evidence. Financial records, communications, kill orders, everything needed to bring Timothy Blackwell down." "Have you gone to the FBI? DOJ?" Stone shook his head. "Timothy Blackwell is Secretary of Defense. He has connections everywhere. FBI, CIA, military brass. If we go through official channels, he'll know within an hour. He'll destroy evidence. He'll disappear. We'll never get another shot at him." "So what's the plan?" "Tomorrow night, Timothy is hosting a charity fundraiser at his Maryland estate. Private event, minimal security. Garrett will be there too. Both brothers in one place." Stone leaned forward. "Harrington is giving us 6 hours. 6 hours before he has to officially report what we know. 6 hours to infiltrate that estate, capture both Blackwells, and secure evidence that can't be destroyed or denied." "An illegal raid in the Secretary of Defense?" "Yes, with no official authorization." "Correct. If we're caught, we'll be charged with treason." "Almost certainly." Kira thought about Mac, thought about her grandfather, thought about everyone who died because Timothy Blackwell valued money over lives. When do we leave? Stone smiled. Thought you might say that. We've got 18 hours to plan. Doctor says you need at least a week of recovery before you can function. We don't have a week. I can function now. You can barely sit up. Kira gritted her teeth and forced herself upright. Every muscle screamed. Her vision swam, but she stayed sitting. I can function, she repeated. Stone studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Your grandfather had that same stubborn streak. Saved my life because of it, nearly killed himself doing it. He stood up, grabbed crutches from the corner. Come on, Nora's waiting. We've got work to do. The planning room was in the hospital's basement, classified space that officially didn't exist. Nora had set up a command center with computers, satellite imagery, and enough telecommunications equipment to run a small war. She looked up when Kira and Stone entered. Dark circles under her eyes. 3 empty energy drink cans on the desk. She'd been working nonstop. Phantom, you look like hell. Feel worse. What have you got? Nora pulled up aerial imagery of the estate. 300 acres. Main house is here, 8 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms, all the markers of excessive wealth. Private security is 12 contractors. Ex-military, well-trained, but not Delta, not SEALs. They're good, but not elite. What about government protection? Kira asked. None. Timothy specifically requested no Secret Service presence, said it was a private event and he didn't want the scrutiny, which tells us he doesn't want any official witnesses to who's attending. Stone pointed to the screen. Guest list? 50 confirmed. Mix of donors, lobbyists, defense contractors. All people with something to hide. All people who benefit from Timothy's weapons deals. Where's Garrett? Already on site. He arrived 6 hours ago. He's listed as head of security for the event. Kira studied the layout. Access points? Main gate here, service entrance here, but both will be guarded and monitored. We'd need credentials to get through. So we don't go through gates. What about the water? The estate bordered the Chesapeake Bay. Nora zoomed in on the coastline. Private dock, 2 boats. The water line is monitored, but not as heavily as the gates. Security cameras cover the dock, but there's a blind spot here. She pointed. If we approach underwater, surface in this cove, we can reach the main house without being seen. What's the distance from cove to house? 200 yards, mostly open ground. But at night, with the party happening, security will be focused on the guests. We might be able to slip through. Stone shook his head. Too risky. We need a diversion, something that pulls security away from the house. I can be the diversion, Kira said. Both of them looked at her. You're in no condition to, Stone started. I don't need to fight. I need to shoot. Give me a hide position with line of sight to the house. I provide overwatch. If things go wrong, I create chaos. Draw security away from your position. Nora pulled up topographical maps. There's a ridgeline here, 1,150 yards from the main house. Wooded, good concealment. You could set up there. Perfect. Phantom, you can barely walk, Stone said. I don't need to walk. I need to shoot. And I can do that better than anyone you've got. Stone and Nora exchanged looks. Some silent communication passed between them. Fine, Stone said finally. But you're on overwatch only. No heroics. You see trouble. You report. You don't engage unless I give the order. Understood. Nora pulled up more imagery. Here's what we know about the interior. Timothy's private office is on the 2nd floor, east wing. That's where he'll keep his personal files. Encrypted servers. Hard evidence. How do we access the servers? Kira asked. We don't. I do. Remotely. But I need someone to physically plug this into his network. She held up a small USB device. Once it's in, I can access everything from outside. Download files, clone drives, the works. But someone has to get into that office. That's my job, Stone said. I'll go in as catering staff, fake credentials, slip away from the party, access the office, plant the device. What about Garrett? Kira asked. He's the wild card. We need to neutralize him before he can sound an alarm. But we need him alive. He's a witness. Without his testimony, we can't prove Timothy ordered the hits. Kira thought about Garrett Blackwell, the man who'd sabotaged her rifle, the man who'd sent her team into an ambush, the man who'd watched Mac die and done nothing to stop it. She wanted him dead, wanted to put a bullet through his skull and watch the life drain from his eyes. But Stone was right. They needed him alive. I can take him, Kira said. Non-lethal shot. Incapacitate him. Then you extract him while I cover. A non-lethal shot from 1,150 yards? Nora said skeptically. That's nearly impossible. Nearly, but not completely. Stone considered. If you miss, if you kill him instead of wounding him, I won't miss. The confidence in her voice left no room for argument. Stone nodded slowly. Okay, here's how this works. Nora stays mobile in a van outside the estate, coordinates communications, monitors security feeds. Kira sets up on the ridgeline at 1900 hours. I infiltrate at 2000 hours. By 2100 hours, I'm in Timothy's office. Plant the device. Nora downloads everything. While that's happening, Phantom takes down Garrett. Non-lethal. We grab him, extract through the water, and we're gone before anyone realizes what happened. And if something goes wrong, Nora asked, then Phantom provides covering fire while we fight our way out. Either way, we don't leave without Garrett, and we don't leave without evidence. Kira looked at the satellite imagery, studied the distances, the angles, the variables. This was going to be the hardest shot of her life. Not because of distance, she'd made longer shots, but because she had to wound, not kill. Had to put a bullet through Garrett Blackwell's shoulder or leg. Had to drop him without killing him. Margin for error was millimeters. 1 inch too high, she'd hit his chest. Fatal. 1 inch too low, she'd miss entirely. He'd sound the alarm. Mission over. It had to be perfect. I can make the shot, she said. Stone put a hand on her shoulder. The gesture was fatherly, comforting. I know you can. Your grandfather would be proud. Mac would be proud. Hell, I'm proud. He paused. But Kira, understand something. After tomorrow night, we're all fugitives. The government will come after us. We'll spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders. Are you ready for that? Kira thought about Mac's last words. Don't stop. She thought about her father, dying in Mogadishu to save his brothers. She thought about her grandfather, making impossible shots because it was the right thing to do. Legacy wasn't about comfort. It was about doing what needed to be done, regardless of the cost. I'm ready. The next evening came too fast. Kira barely slept, spent the day checking equipment, running calculations, visualizing the shot over and over. By 1800 hours, she was in position on the ridgeline. Full ghillie suit, Barrett M82 setup with night vision scope. Rangefinder confirmed 1,147 yards to the main house. Close enough to her estimate. Wind was calm. Temperature was dropping. Humidity high. All factors that would affect bullet trajectory. She made her calculations, adjusted her scope, zeroed in on the house. Through the scope, she could see guests arriving. Expensive cars, designer clothes, people who'd never spent a day in combat, who'd never watched friends die, who'd never had to make impossible choices. They were laughing, drinking champagne, enjoying their wealth while soldiers died to protect it. Phantom, this is Stone. I'm at the service entrance, moving to infiltrate now. Copy. I have eyes on the main house. Count 12 security contractors on patrol. Garrett Blackwell is on the second floor balcony, east side. Confirmed visual on Garrett. He's holding what looks like a radio, probably coordinating security. Wait for my signal before you engage. Copy. Kira watched Stone through her scope. He was dressed in catering whites, carrying a tray of drinks. Looked like he belonged. Walked with confidence. Nobody gave him a second glance. He disappeared into the house. Now came the waiting. Stone needed 15 minutes to reach the office. Another 5 to plant the device. Then Nora needed time to download files. 20 minutes minimum, probably 30. Kira settled in, controlled her breathing, ignored the pain in her ribs and shoulder, focused entirely on the scope. Through the second-floor windows, she could see Timothy Blackwell, Secretary of Defense, the man responsible for Mac's death, for Holbrook's death, for dozens of deaths across a decade. He was laughing, talking to donors, playing the role of gracious host. She could kill him right now, one shot, justice for everyone he'd murdered. But that wasn't the mission. The mission was evidence, exposure, making sure the world knew what he'd done. Dead men couldn't testify. Dead men couldn't implicate others. Phantom, I'm in the office. Stone's voice was barely a whisper. Planning device, now. Copy, no movement from security, you're clear. Nora, are you getting signal? Affirmative, Nora's voice came through. I'm in his system. Holy shit, there's so much here. Financial records, kill orders going back 12 years, communication with Crimson Syndicate. This is everything. How long to download? 10 minutes, maybe 15. There's terabytes of data. We don't have 15 minutes. Security Patrol is going to do a sweep in 12 minutes. I need to be out of here before then. I'm going as fast as I can. Kira scanned the grounds. Security was getting antsy. One contractor was talking into his radio, looking around suspiciously. Stone, something's wrong. Security is going active. I think they know. Damn it, Nora, abort the download. Take what you have. I need 5 more minutes. We don't have 5 minutes. The contractor who'd been talking on the radio suddenly pointed toward the house. 3 more contractors started moving toward the main entrance. They knew. Somehow, they knew. Stone, you've got 4 contractors heading to your position. Estimate 30 seconds to your location. Copy. Nora, status? 3 minutes. Just give me 3 more minutes, Stone swore. Phantom, I'm going to have to fight my way out. Be ready to provide covering fire. Wait, Kira's mind raced. I can buy you time, but you're not going to like it. What are you thinking? I'm going loud. Create chaos. Pull security away from your position. Negative, that'll blow your cover. You'll be exposed. We don't have a choice. Nora needs 3 minutes. Security will reach you in 30 seconds. This is the only play. Silence on the radio. Then Stone's voice resigned. Do it. Kira shifted her aim, found the lead contractor, the one coordinating the sweep. She wasn't aiming to kill. She was aiming to create panic. She fired. The bullet hit the ground 3 feet in front of the contractor. Dirt exploded upward. The man dove for cover, started screaming into his radio. Chaos erupted. Guests screaming. Security drawing weapons. Everyone looking for the shooter. Kira fired again, hit the front tire of a security vehicle. The tire exploded. Third shot, shattered a champagne fountain. Glass everywhere. Nobody was looking at the second-floor office anymore. Everyone was focused on the attack happening in the courtyard. Nora, you've got your 3 minutes. Make them count. I'm downloading. Keep them distracted. Kira fired methodically. Not hitting people, just creating destruction. Keeping security focused on the wrong threat. But they were starting to triangulate her position. Rifles turning toward the ridgeline. Flashlights sweeping the tree line. Nora! 90 seconds. Gunfire erupted from the estate. They were shooting back. Bullets snapped through branches above Kira's head. Too close. She relocated. Moved 50 yards west. Set up again. Fired 3 more shots. Done, Nora yelled. I've got everything. Stone, get out of there. Copy. X-filing now. Through her scope, Kira saw Stone burst from a side door. He was running toward the water, toward extraction. But Garrett Blackwell had spotted him. was drawing a weapon, aiming at Stone's back. This was the shot, the one she'd been preparing for. Kira acquired Garrett through her scope, 1,147 yards. He was moving, tracking Stone, about to fire. She needed to hit his right shoulder, disable his shooting arm, non-lethal but incapacitating. The margin for error was less than 2 inches. She breathed out, found the stillness, made the decision, squeezed. The bullet flew, 1,147 yards in 2.3 seconds, hit Garrett Blackwell in the right shoulder. He spun, dropped his weapon, collapsed. Non-lethal. Perfect. Target down, Kira reported. Garrett is wounded, alive. You've got maybe 90 seconds before backup arrives. I see him, moving to grab. Stone reached Garrett, zip-tied his hands, started dragging him toward the water. But more security was coming. 6 contractors, heavily armed. Stone, you've got company. 6 hostiles, 75 yards from your position. I can't move faster. Garrett weighs 200 pounds. Kira made another decision. This one easier. She started shooting. Not to create chaos this time, to kill. First contractor down, headshot, 980 yards. Second contractor, third, fourth. By the time the remaining 2 realized what was happening, Stone had reached the water, had Garrett in a boat, was pulling away from the dock. I'm clear. Phantom, extract, now! Kira grabbed her Barrett, started running. Security had pinpointed her position. Were closing in, 20 of them, maybe more. She'd never make it to extraction, unless she got creative. She ran downhill, toward the estate, toward the threat, the opposite direction they'd expect. Hit the perimeter fence, climbed over, dropped into a garden on the estate grounds. Security was looking outward, looking for someone fleeing, not someone moving inward. She worked her way through the garden, through shadows, past confused guests and panicking security. Nobody looked at her twice. She was small, injured, covered in dirt, just another casualty of the attack. She reached the water on the opposite side of the property, found the cove where Stone had stashed a second boat. Emergency extraction, just in case. Was climbing into the boat when someone grabbed her from behind. She spun, Sig Sauer drawn, aimed at Timothy Blackwell, Secretary of Defense, the man responsible for everything, standing 3 feet away, unarmed, alone. Corporal Brennan, he said calmly, I wondered if it was you. Get down on the ground, hands behind your head. Or what? You'll shoot me? We both know you won't. You need me alive. For testimony. For evidence. He smiled. That's the problem with doing things the right way. It gives men like me leverage. Kira's finger tightened on the trigger. She could shoot him. Could end this right now. Nobody would know. Nobody would question it. But he was right. They needed him alive. Nora, she said into her radio, you got everything? Everything. Bank records, communications, kill orders, all of it. We don't need Timothy's testimony. We have written proof. Kira looked at Timothy Blackwell, saw understanding dawn on his face. You don't need me, he said slowly. No, we don't. You're going to kill me. No. Kira lowered her pistol slightly. I'm going to give you a choice. The same choice you gave Mac. You can come with me, stand trial, face justice, or you can run. Run? Why would I? Because if you run, that's admission of guilt. Your career is over. Your legacy is destroyed. Everything you built collapses. And if I come with you, then you get a lawyer, a trial. Maybe you walk on a technicality. Maybe you spend the rest of your life arguing you were just following orders. Either way, you face the consequences. Timothy considered. She could see him calculating, weighing his options. Then he bolted, ran toward the main house, toward his security, toward safety. Kira didn't chase him, just got in the boat, started the motor, pulled away from the dock. Through the chaos behind her, she heard Timothy Blackwell screaming orders, heard security mobilizing, heard the sounds of a powerful man realizing his power was gone. She met Stone and Nora 3 miles offshore. They transferred Garrett Blackwell to their boat, secured him, gagged him so he couldn't shout for help. "Did you get him?" Stone asked, meaning Timothy. "Didn't need to. Nora got everything. Timothy's done either way." Nora held up a hard drive. 20 years of evidence. Every crime, every murder, every dollar. We have it all. They motored into darkness. Behind them, the estate was lit up like a Christmas tree. Helicopters were lifting off. Coast Guard boats were scrambling, but they were already gone. 3 ghosts disappearing into the night. Norm Epilogue. 6 months later. The news broke 72 hours after the Maryland raid. Every major network, every newspaper, every website. Secretary of Defense Timothy Blackwell under investigation for illegal weapons sales. Commander Garrett Blackwell arrested for conspiracy to commit murder. Both brothers facing life imprisonment. The evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable. Financial records, kill orders, communications. Everything Nora had downloaded. The government tried to spin it, tried to downplay, tried to claim it was a rogue operation. But the evidence was public now, leaked to a dozen journalists simultaneously. The people knew, the world knew, and Timothy Blackwell's empire collapsed in a single day. 6 months later, the trials concluded. Timothy Blackwell, life imprisonment without parole. Garrett Blackwell, 20 years, possibility of parole in 12. Both brothers would die in prison. Kira watched the sentencing from a safe house in Montana. Different cabin, different mountain, same isolation. But this time, she wasn't hiding. She was healing. Stone walked into the room. No more cane. Walking normally now. The leg had healed well. "How you feeling?" he asked. "Like I just burned my entire life to the ground." "Yeah, that's about right." He sat down next to her. Harrington called. Officially, we're wanted for illegal raid on government property. Unofficially, he's making sure we have new identities, new lives, a chance to disappear. "Do you trust him?" "He was your grandfather's best friend, and he's kept us alive this long. So yeah, I trust him." Kira thought about that, about trust, about loyalty, about the difference between the oath you swear and the reality you live. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now, we disappear, live quiet lives, try to pretend we're normal people." "Are we normal?" Stone laughed. "No, we're ghosts, Phantom. We'll always be ghosts, but at least we're ghosts who did the right thing." He stood up. "Oh, and one more thing. Harrington has a job offer, if you're interested. Fort Bragg, SEAL, training facility." Kira stood at the shooting range, watched a young female candidate struggle with her qualification. The woman was small, maybe 5'2", looked like she weighed 110 pounds soaking wet. She just missed her 5th shot, was starting to panic. Kira walked over. The candidate snapped to attention. "At ease. What's your name?" "Corporal Madison Vaughn, ma'am." "What's the problem, Vaughn?" "The problem is I can't shoot, ma'am. I'm not good enough. I don't belong here." Kira studied her, saw herself 5 years ago. Same doubts, same fears. "You know what I think the problem is?" Kira said. "No, ma'am. The problem is you decided you can't shoot before you even pulled the trigger. You made a decision about your failure before you attempted success." She handed Vaughn a different rifle. Max M40A3, the one he'd trained with, the one he'd taught Kira on. "This rifle belonged to my mentor, Master Chief Colton Rutherford. He taught me something important. 10% is the shot. 90% is the decision you make before the shot." "I don't understand, ma'am." "You're focusing on the target. You should be focusing on the decision. Decide you're good enough. Decide you belong. Decide you'll make the shot. Then the shooting is just mechanics." Vaughn took the rifle, hefted it, Looked at the target 1,000 yards downrange. What if I miss? Then you miss. But you miss knowing you decided to be great. That's better than hitting while believing you're not. Vaughn took her position, breathed, aimed, squeezed. Bullseye. Dead center. The candidate's face lit up. Pure joy. I did it. I actually... You decided to do it, Kira corrected. The rest was just following through. Remember that. Every time you pick up a rifle, every time you face an impossible situation, decide first, act second. Vaughn nodded enthusiastically. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. She ran off to tell her friends. Kira watched her go, smiled. Stone walked up beside her. You're good at this, teaching. Grandfather taught me. Mac refined it. I'm just passing it on. That's what legacy is, Stone said. Not the shots you make, but the people you teach to make their own shots. Kira thought about her grandfather, about Mac, about everyone who'd taught her, everyone who'd believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. Stone, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think Mac would be proud of what we did? Stone was quiet for a moment. Then he put a hand on her shoulder. I think Mac knew exactly who you were, what you were capable of. Why do you think he made you promise not to stop? Because he knew I'd want to quit? No, because he knew you wouldn't. He knew you'd finish what he started. He knew you'd do whatever it took to make things right. That's why he chose you. Not because you were the best sniper, but because you were the best person. Kira felt tears sting her eyes. Didn't let them fall. Not here, not now. I miss him, she said quietly. Yeah, me too. And your grandfather, and your father, and everyone else we've lost. Stone paused. But they're not gone. Not really. They're here. In the lessons we teach. In the decisions we make. In the legacy we pass down. He turned to leave. Stopped. Looked back. By the way, Harrington told me to tell you, they're naming a shooting range after Callum Brennan and a training building after Mac Rutherford. Figured you'd want to know. He left before she could respond. Kira stood on the range, watching candidates shoot, watching the next generation learn, watching legacy being passed down. She thought about everything she'd lost, her peaceful life in Montana, her anonymity, her chance at normal. But she'd gained something too. Purpose. Meaning. The knowledge that when it mattered most, she'd made the right decision. 10% is the shot. 90% is the decision. She'd decided to fight, to not stop, to honor Mac's last words. And in doing that, she'd found something she didn't expect. She'd found herself. 2 weeks later, Arlington National Cemetery, Kira stood in front of Mac's grave. The headstone was simple, just his name, rank, and dates. Below that, a warrior who never quit, a mentor who never failed. She placed Mac's dog tags on the headstone, the ones Doc had given her that terrible night in Syria. I finished it, Chief, she said quietly. Got them all. The Blackwells, the architect, everyone who hurt the team. They're done. The wind rustled through the cemetery. Early morning, nobody else around. You were right, about the decision being more important than the shot, about not stopping, about everything. She paused. I'm teaching now, at Bragg, training the next generation, passing on what you taught me, what grandfather taught me. I think you'd approve. She stood there for a long time, just her and Mac's grave and the memory of everything they'd been through. Finally, she saluted, held it for a long moment, then lowered her hand. Rest easy, Chief. Mission accomplished. She walked through the cemetery, found her father's grave. Captain Dylan Brennan, Ranger, killed in Mogadishu. Hi, Dad. I know you can't hear me, but I wanted you to know. I became what you would have wanted, a warrior, a protector, someone who does the right thing even when it's hard. She placed her silver star on his grave. This is yours, really. Your sacrifice made me who I am. Thank you. Then to her grandfather's grave, Master Gunnery Sergeant Callum Brennan, the Reaper, 87 confirmed kills, a legend. Hey, abuelo, I know I'm talking to stone, but it helps. Makes me feel like you're still here. She sat down next to his grave, traced his name with her finger. I made the shots that mattered, just like you taught me. Not the easy shots, not the safe shots, the ones that needed to be made. The ones where the decision mattered more than the mechanics. She pulled out a photo, her, Mac, and her grandfather. The only picture of all three together, taken at her BUD/S graduation. I miss you, both of you. Miss the way you made me believe I could do impossible things. Miss the way you never doubted me, even when I doubted myself. She placed the photo on the grave, left it there. They're naming a shooting range after you. Figured you'd like that. Every SEAL who ever trains there will know your name, will know what you did, will try to live up to your standard. She stood up, brushed grass off her pants. I have to go. I've got candidates to train. Impossible people to teach impossible skills. You know, the family business. She saluted, held it, then lowered her hand, walked away without looking back. Behind her, the sun rose over Arlington, golden light streaming across endless rows of white stones. Heroes, warriors, people who decided to be something more than themselves. Kira Brennan walked among them, no longer hiding, no longer running, no longer afraid. She was a ghost, a phantom, a warrior in the shadows. But more than that, she was a teacher, a mentor. Someone passing on the legacy she'd inherited. Someone making sure that when the next impossible shot needed to be made, there would be someone ready to make it. Because that's what Brennans did. That's what SEALs did. That's what warriors did. They made the decision, then they took the shot, and they never, ever stopped.